I never should have bought that radio. It was an impulse purchase at Ms. Abernathy's estate sale. An antique tube radio from the 1940s, its wooden case scratched but still gleaming softly in the afternoon light that filtered through her dusty curtains. I'd always had a thing for vintage electronics, and at $20, it seemed like a steal. The elderly auctioneer had given me an odd look when I handed him the cash, his liver-spotted hand lingering on mine a moment too long. It belonged to her husband, he said quietly. She never let anyone touch it after he passed. What happened to him? I asked, more out of politeness than genuine interest. The old man's rheumy eyes drifted toward the ceiling. No one rightly knows. Just disappeared one night. Left the radio playing. I should have walked away then. I should have recognized the cold weight settling in my stomach for what it was. Instinct warning me. Instead, I laughed awkwardly and tucked the radio under my arm, already imagining how it would look on my apartment's bookshelf. That was 37 days ago. For the first week, the radio sat untouched on my shelf, a conversation piece, and nothing more. I'd moved into this one-bedroom apartment after my divorce, and the place still felt impersonal, temporary. The radio gave a character, a story. When Rachel came over, my first visitor since the move, she ran her fingers over the carved wooden case and asked if it worked. No idea, I admitted. Haven't tried. Her dark eyes lit up with challenge. Let's find out. I plugged it in, half expecting nothing to happen or worse, for it to short out my apartment's ancient wiring. Instead, the dial glowed a soft amber, and after a minute of warming up, a faint hiss of static filled the room. Rachel twisted the tuning knob, searching for a station, but found only variations of that same insistent static. Probably needs some work, I said, reaching to unplug it. She caught my wrist. Wait, she whispered. Do you hear that? I listened. At first, nothing but static. Then something else. A rhythm within the noise, almost like breathing. In, out, in, out. It's just interference, I said, more to reassure myself than her. I unplugged the radio, and the amber glow faded. Rachel stayed another hour, but the easy conversation we'd enjoyed was gone, replaced by awkward silences and her frequent glances toward the now dark radio. She hasn't been back since. That night, I dreamed of static. Not the visual kind, but auditory. A sea of white noise that rose and fell like waves, and beneath it, that same rhythmic breathing. I woke at 3:17 a.m., my sheets damp with sweat, certain that the radio was playing. It wasn't, of course. It sat unplugged on my shelf, cold and silent in the moonlight that spilled through my blinds. I didn't touch it again for 3 days, but curiosity gnaws, especially in the loneliness of a fresh divorce and a new, empty apartment. On the fourth night, after 2 glasses of bourbon, I plugged it in again. The static came immediately this time, no warm-up needed. I twisted the knob slowly, methodically searching every frequency. Static, 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 then a voice. Faint, distant, as if speaking from the bottom of a well. I couldn't make out words, just the cadence of human speech. I leaned closer, ear nearly touching the speaker grill, always watching. 2 words, suddenly clear before fading back into the hiss and pop of interference. My hand jerked back as if burned. I must have misheard. Static plays tricks on the brain. We're wired to find patterns in chaos, faces in random shapes, voices in white noise. I was about to unplug it when the voice returned, stronger now. Daniel. My name. My fucking name coming through a radio that couldn't possibly be receiving any broadcast that would know who was listening. I yanked the plug from the wall, my heart hammering against my ribs. The amber light died, but the voice lingered in my mind. It had sounded familiar. Sleep eluded me that night. Every time I drifted off, the static returned in my dreams, and with it, that voice calling my name, more insistent each time. I woke repeatedly, checking to make sure the radio remained unplugged. By morning, my eyes were gritty with exhaustion, my nerves frayed. I should have thrown it away then, carried it to the dumpster behind my building, and been done with it. Instead, I did some research. Ms. Abernathy had lived alone for decades after her husband Harold vanished in 1976. According to the sparse newspaper articles I found online, he was last seen by a neighbor, sitting in his armchair beside the radio. By morning, he was gone. No signs of struggle, no note, no body ever found. The police eventually closed the case, assuming he had simply walked away from his life. Not uncommon, especially for men of that era trapped in unhappy marriages. But one detail caught my attention. The neighbor mentioned hearing the radio playing unusually late that night. Some kind of static or interference, she had told police. And I thought I heard voices arguing. I told myself this was just a coincidence, that the radio was simply picking up some strange frequency, perhaps a CB radio from a passing truck, or interference from my apartment's wiring. The voice saying my name was a product of my imagination, my mind finding patterns in randomness. I believed that less each day. The dreams continued, static-filled and increasingly disturbing. In them, I'm always searching for something in a dark house, guided only by the sound of a radio playing somewhere ahead of me. Sometimes I glimpse movement in the shadows, a tall figure, unnaturally thin. Sometimes I hear footsteps behind me, perfectly matching my rhythm, stopping when I stop. I never see who's following me. I always wake up before I find the radio. Last night, I sleepwalked for the first time in my life. I woke standing before the shelf, the radio in my hands. Though I have no memory of getting out of bed or picking it up, the plug dangled free, yet the dial glowed amber, and from the speaker came that now familiar static. And the voice. Almost there, Daniel. It wasn't until I set the radio down that I realized the voice wasn't coming through the speaker at all, but from directly behind me. I didn't turn around. Couldn't. Fear rooted me to the spot. Fear and the bone-deep certainty that whatever stood behind me was not something I should see. The presence lingered for what felt like hours, though my bedside clock later told me only minutes had passed. I felt it watching me, felt its cold breath on the back of my neck. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, it was gone, leaving behind only the scent of ozone and decay. This morning, I found scratches on my back, for parallel lines running from shoulder to hip, as if something had dragged long fingernails across my skin while I slept. My bathroom mirror revealed dark circles under my eyes and a gauntness to my face that hadn't been there a month ago. I look like I'm disappearing, like Harold Abernathy. The radio is plugged in now as I write this. I don't remember plugging it in. The static has changed, developed a pattern like Morse code or a heartbeat. Da-dum, da-dum, da-dum. Sometimes I think it's matching my own pulse. Sometimes I'm sure it's slightly faster, as if encouraging my heart to speed up, to catch up. I tried to leave the apartment today. Got as far as the door before the static grew, so loud it felt like my head would split open. The moment I stepped back toward the radio, the pain subsided. It doesn't want me to leave. The voice comes more frequently now, no longer limited to dreams or late-night listening sessions. I hear it while showering, while making coffee, while staring blankly at work emails I can't focus on enough to answer. Almost there, Daniel. Almost home. I don't know what that means. I don't want to know. The radio has started changing. The wood seems darker, the grain more pronounced. The dial, once amber, now glows a deep crimson that reminds me of blood pooling beneath skin. And something moves behind the speaker grill, shadows that shift and flow like smoke, but with purpose, with hunger. This afternoon, I called Rachel, desperate for human contact, for someone to witness what's happening to me. The line connected, but all I heard was static and, faintly, my own voice calling her name, though my lips weren't moving. I hung up, hands shaking. I've stopped sleeping entirely. 3 days now. The apartment is never fully dark anymore. The radio's glow ceased to that, pulsing like a heartbeat throughout the night. Red light, then shadow. Red light, then shadow. In the momentary darkness between pulses, I see things moving at the corners of my vision, tall, thin figures that disappear when I try to look directly at them. Whatever is happening, it's accelerating. Last night, during one of the pulses of darkness, I felt something touch my face. Fingers too long and too cold to be human, their touch leaving burning trails across my cheek. I screamed, but no sound came out. Instead, My scream emerged from the radio, distorted and distant, as if I were already far away. I think I understand now what's happening. What happened to Harold Abernathy? The radio isn't picking up external broadcasts. It's a door, a gateway, and something on the other side has been reaching through, pulling me gradually closer to whatever lies beyond. The static speaks clearly to me now. It has Harold's voice, and he tells me of the world on the other side, a place of shadow and whispers, where time moves differently and identity blurs like watercolors in rain. He's been there since 1976, and others before him, all drawn through their radios by the entities that live in the frequencies between stations. They feed on isolation. Harold's voice explains through the ever-present static, on loneliness, on the desperate human need for connection, even with the unknown. They chose me because I was vulnerable, newly divorced, living alone, craving something to fill the silence of my empty apartment. The perfect candidate. I'm writing this as a warning, though I don't know if anyone will find it. The radio sits beside me, its glow painting my hands red as I type. The static has taken on an eager quality, like water beginning to boil. Whatever is coming, it's close now. My reflection in the computer screen isn't quite right anymore. My movements lag slightly, as if my reflection is trying to get ahead of me. Sometimes I catch it smiling when I'm not. Sometimes it mouths words I can't understand. The static is growing louder, the crimson glow brighter. The space behind the speaker grill seems deeper than it should be, no longer limited by the physical dimensions of the radio. I see things moving in that impossible depth, shadowy figures gathering, waiting. They're impatient now. The scratches on my back burn like fire. The air in the apartment feels thin, hard to breathe. When I exhale, my breath fogs as if in winter, though it's the middle of summer. I can feel myself coming apart at the edges. Fragments of my consciousness seem to float away, drawn into the radio's crimson heart. My thoughts scatter like birds startled into flight, then return altered, foreign. I'm not entirely here anymore, not entirely me. Harold whispers that it doesn't hurt, not really. That eventually, you stop fighting and embrace the static. Let it fill you completely until there's no room left for fear or pain or the memory of who you once were. I hear footsteps in the apartment now, matching my own. My shadow on the wall is too tall, too thin. Its movements not quite synchronized with mine. When I turn quickly, I catch glimpses of someone else occupying my space, like a double exposure on film. The radio is starting to expand, its dimensions fluctuating with each pulse of crimson light. The wooden case creaks and groans as if under enormous pressure from within. The static has become a roar, drowning out all other sound. Something is coming through. If you're reading this, if you find this, please, destroy the radio. Don't listen to the voices in the static. Don't let them say your name. Don't let them find the loneliness in you, the empty spaces they can fill. They're always looking for a way in, always watching, always list. The document ends mid-word. When police entered Daniel Crawford's apartment 3 days later, responding to complaints about persistent static noise, they found the apartment empty except for a vintage radio, still playing, its wooden case warped and expanded as if from extreme heat. Daniel Crawford was never found. The radio disappeared from the evidence room 2 days later. Dear listener, thank you for staying with me until the end of this story. Make sure to subscribe to my channel. Many more terrifying, mysterious, and thrilling stories are coming soon. See you again very soon.